Look, something wild is happening in Canadian politics, and I mean times wild. Not some random noise, not some Twitter drama. Real signal breaking through the noise. Mark Carney has been crushing Pierre Poilievre in preferred PM polls for months. But now, the gap is expanding at an exponential rate. Not because of some political BS, not because of spin doctors or PR teams, but because Canadians are watching this guy times actually execute asterisk, and they're choosing competence over performative outrage. The post-budget polling data? Not surprising if you've been paying attention. It's just confirmation of what the first principles analysis already predicted. Carney isn't just winning. He's establishing himself as the obvious choice for Canadians who want to optimize for stability, national unity, and real leadership capability. The Ottawa media class called the budget underwhelming. Meanwhile, actual Canadians outside the echo chamber saw something completely different: a roadmap, a strategy, and someone who knows how to deploy capital efficiently. The data proves it. Government support increased. The Liberals now have a 5-point national lead. Nobody saw that coming weeks ago. This isn't noise in the dataset. This is a fundamental shift in the political landscape. Canadians want governance, not performance art. They want stability, not soundbites. Carney delivered exactly that, at the precise moment it mattered most. The legacy media is completely missing what's happening here. They're focused on the wrong variables. They're analyzing surface-level metrics, while the underlying fundamentals are shifting dramatically. It's like watching people argue about the color of the paint, while the foundation of the building is being restructured. So the consensus in Ottawa seems to be that the budget underdelivered, or was somehow underwhelming. But what does the actual data show outside the political bubble? Here's what matters. We track weekly metrics on key issues, leadership perception, and voting intention. Right now, the Liberals are running about 5 points ahead, like 42 to 37 over the Conservatives. For context, 4 weeks ago it was 39 to 37. Statistical dead heat. Now the Liberals are seeing sustained upward momentum. This is textbook compound growth in political capital. Small gains compounding week over week. That's how you build unstoppable momentum. Anyone who's built anything understands this dynamic. For months, Canadians have consistently preferred Carney as PM, even when party support was basically tied. But now his personal advantage has gone parabolic. He's 27 points ahead of Pierre Poilievre in the preferred PM metric. That's one of the largest leadership gaps we've seen in modern Canadian political history. To put this in perspective, a 27-point leadership advantage is absolutely massive. That's not a gap. That's a canyon. That's the kind of differential that fundamentally alters the entire race dynamics. I've seen competitive markets, and this kind of advantage is what you call market dominance. This is what's actually happening. Poilievre's base might be intense, but it's capped. There's a ceiling on growth when your strategy is purely based on negativity and opposition. It's a local maximum, not a global one. Carney's support is horizontally scaling and built on trust architecture, not grievance-based engagement. Canadians see Carney navigating complex challenges, negotiating with provincial governments, building critical infrastructure, executing economic strategy, and restoring Canada's international credibility metrics. Poilievre optimizes for volume. Carney optimizes for outcomes. Canadians are choosing the builder over the broadcaster. It's really that simple when you break it down to first principles. Multiple successive polls now show Prime Minister Carney with a commanding lead over Pierre Poilievre. At what point does that preference lock in and become structurally immovable in terms of preferred Prime Minister? Well, typically whoever holds the PM office has an incumbent advantage because they times the Prime Minister. Basic probability distribution. In this case, though, this is an unusually large advantage for Mark Carney over Pierre Poilievre, about 27 percentage points. But here's the critical insight. Liberal support isn't about people loving the Liberal Party. It's not about people approving of the last decade. It's specifically about Mark Carney as the key variable. Conservative support, which has held steady since the election, remains exceptionally high. In some readings, it's at 37%. Stephen Harper won 2 majority governments with approximately that support level. But for Conservatives, it's not about Pierre Poilievre as a positive choice. It's about people wanting disruption. They're dissatisfied with the status quo and want directional change. Think of it this way. One party is personality-driven, one is reaction-driven. For Conservative voters, I don't think most of them care about leadership identity. They just want the Liberals removed from power. That's a fundamentally weak position to build a campaign on. You're running times against times something rather than times for times something. That works in opposition, but it's not a winning strategy for forming government. It's literally the opposite of how you build something that lasts. Despite all of Poilievre's media presence, his numbers haven't moved in over a year. Not up, not down. Just flat. Completely flat. That's actually remarkable when you think about it. All that energy, all that content, all that engagement, and zero movement in the fundamentals. That's what happens when you're optimizing for the wrong metrics. You get lots of activity but no actual progress. Poilievre supporters dislike the Liberals, but they don't necessarily have high confidence in him either. And outside the conservative core, Canadians simply don't evaluate him as ready to govern a G7 nation during global volatility. Meanwhile, Carney is accumulating support from moderates, centrists, independents, business community leaders, and younger Canadians who want a forward-looking, execution-focused leader. Poilievre might generate engagement intensity, but Carney has earned credibility. And credibility is what determines electoral outcomes. Always has been, always will be. You can't fake competence long term. One of the primary drivers behind Carney's accelerating lead is the shifting global environment. The U.S. is dealing with political instability. Trump is generating uncertainty around trade architecture. Global markets are experiencing high volatility. Supply chains are being restructured. The entire geopolitical landscape is in flux. Canadians are asking a fundamental question: who do you trust to manage Canada's relationship with the world system? The answer, overwhelmingly, is Mark Carney. Someone who understands economics, international relations, and global strategic positioning at a level that's unprecedented in Canadian politics. This guy literally ran the Bank of England during Brexit. He's navigated some of the most complex financial situations in modern history. That experience matters enormously right now. It's not theoretical knowledge. It's battle-tested expertise under extreme pressure conditions. Poilievre can criticize. Carney can negotiate. Canadians understand which capability matters right now. When the world is unstable, you need someone who can operate at the highest levels internationally, not someone who's really good at viral clips. You need someone who understands how the machine actually works. Another significant factor driving Carney's momentum is his transformed relationship with Alberta. This is genuinely impressive if you understand the history here. Alberta and Ottawa have been at each other's throats for decades. It's been a structural problem in Canadian federalism. Canadians, including Albertans, watched him close deals, secure capital commitments, and advance pipeline infrastructure without political theater. People are seeing him align Alberta and Ottawa in ways no prime minister has accomplished in years. The polling reflects that transformation. Canadians want market diversification. They want new export channels. They want independence from U.S. economic volatility. Carney is shipping that, and voters are rewarding execution over promises. This is what results-oriented leadership looks like in practice. What the new polling actually demonstrates is this: Canadians aren't responding to promises. They're responding to delivered results. Show, don't tell. Execute, don't just talk. That's what people actually care about. Words are cheap. Results are expensive. In just months, Mark Carney has accumulated a list of accomplishments that no Canadian Prime Minister has achieved in years. Let me break down the actual deliverables here because they're substantial. He negotiated a historic partnership agreement with Alberta, terminating years of federal-provincial conflict and replacing it with cooperation, integrated economic planning, and new pipeline development with Indigenous partnership structures. That's solving a problem that's existed for literally decades. He secured $70 billion in foreign direct investment from the UAE, creating pathways for energy exports, new market access, and long-term economic stability. That's real capital, real investment, real jobs, not promises, actual signed agreements. He restructured Canada's steel and lumber sectors with major policy interventions, limiting foreign dumping practices, cutting freight costs by 50%, and reorienting domestic demand prioritization so Canadian workers benefit first. That's industrial policy that actually works. He introduced Canada's first genuinely national economic architecture in over a decade, backed by over $1 trillion in planned capital deployment, integrating infrastructure, energy systems, manufacturing capacity, and innovation ecosystems into one unified strategy. That's systems-level thinking applied to an entire national economy. He rebuilt Canada's global credibility, establishing working relationships with South Africa, Europe, Middle Eastern nations, and Asia, while refusing to get pulled into American political dysfunction. He has restored relationships across provincial boundaries that were previously fractured, demonstrating that Canada can function as a coordinated national system again. This is what competent leadership looks like. It's not flashy. It's not designed for social media. It's just relentless execution on fundamentals. Boring is good when you're building infrastructure for an entire country. So when Canadians say Carney is expanding his lead, this is the reason. He isn't just discussing future possibilities. He's building it systematically, piece by piece, province by province, deal by deal, brick by brick. That's how you build something that lasts. That's how you create actual value rather than just capturing attention. What these polls indicate today isn't a random fluctuation. It's a country methodically choosing the steady executor over the loud performer, choosing unity over division, choosing competence over chaos. The signal is clear if you're looking at the right data. Mark Carney has always been ahead of Poilievre in voter evaluation, but now he's converting that lead into dominance. This isn't just polling momentum. This is Canadians sending a clear signal to the country about exactly what kind of leadership architecture they want going forward. A leader who doesn't optimize for noise, a leader who doesn't fragment the country, a leader who solves actual problems, a leader who understands that governance is about execution, not entertainment. And right now, Canadians believe that leader is Mark Carney. The data is absolutely clear on this. The trend lines are unmistakable. Obviously, this is just my analysis of the data. Do your own research. Make your own assessment. But the signal here is pretty damn strong. Sometimes the obvious answer is actually the correct one.